program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to another adventure live from the heart of the African bush. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live. And a very good morning to all of you and welcome on the Sunrise Safari. My name is Jamie and this morning I have VM on camera with me and we are coming to you live from a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. Now, not only are we live, but we're also interactive, which means that you can send through your questions and you can do that on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions at WildEarthTV. And of course, as always, we have the lovely Rebecca and Jerry in final control and a whole team of people to make sure that the wheels stay on these live broadcasts. Yesterday afternoon, the Sunset Safari, the cat streak was officially broken. There was much sadness involved in the whole process. We had actually gone for a record unbroken. Okay, look, there's a matter of some debate, just in terms of time zones and so on. But by our calculations, a matter of at least 80 days that we had done with solid seeing cats each and every single day. Big cats, sometimes small cats in the form of lion cubs or leopard cubs. All in all, we had done relatively well. Unfortunately, yesterday the cats eluded us and the cat streak was broken at 80 days. Let's see if we can't this morning. I don't know what's wrong with me in the times of day. This morning, let's see if we can't get our cat streak back up and running. But before we go about looking for the cats, I've come across, because this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, I've come through to the northern boundary of Djuma, so the property on my left, whilst there are no fences between us, is just outside of our traverse area. And I've come through to see whether or not, squeaky brakes, I can see or hear any sign of the ground hornbills, and that's because I think I hear them every single morning calling from here. And I'm sort of hoping that perhaps there is a nest site somewhere between us and Buffelshoek. I'm just sitting for a moment to listen. And perhaps they're having a lazy morning, because I don't hear any sounds of the deep drumming call of the ground hornbill, the doot-doot-doot-doot, doot-doot-doot-doot. Is quite a cold and not cold, but it is a cloudy morning. It's 22 degrees this morning, centigrade, which is around 71 in Fahrenheit. So relatively, it's a lot cooler than it was yesterday afternoon on the Sunset Safari. Yesterday afternoon, Sunset Safari was very hot and humid and sweaty. This morning, it's still sweaty, but at least the temperature has dropped ever so slightly. And there seems to be that big bank of clouds that built up yesterday evening. Right, there's a spider web dangling from my hat and keeps catching my eye. I think it's between me and the camera, actually. There we go. Got it all. That's the spider web hand movement. It seems as though that bank of cloud has brought some relief from the temperatures. Of course, it's not just myself out here. Byron is out, Stef will be out a little bit later. But for now, let us head over to Byron so that he can say a very good morning.
We are busy watching a red-billed buffalo weaver frantically building a nest, or adding onto a nest rather. Their nests are very, very messy, but it's a beautiful bird, the red-billed buffalo weaver. Have a look at the size of that nest. But there will be a number of pairs of birds living within that nest, not just one bird. Very messy little nest. But good morning, everyone. My name is Byron, and on camera with me this morning is Gert. And we did the pre-show drive, so some of you may have joined us then already. And it's great to be out here again this morning. Very, very cool morning. So I'm hoping that we do get some activity from animals moving around, maybe a lot longer into the morning if it is a bit cooler. Our plan for this morning is we are going to head towards Cheetah Plains. Go and have a look, check around that area. I haven't been down there for quite some time. So who knows, maybe we get lucky with something interesting. I'd like to find some elephant, just because I haven't seen them for quite some time, for a few days. So love to spend some time with some ellies. So who knows, we will try our best and see. Morning, how's it going? How are you? Good? Yeah? Cheers, bye-bye. I think that's just probably someone who works at one of the lodges around the area. Many lodges in this area, the Northern Sabi Sands, where we are situated. I'm trying to think now, there must be about 6 or 7, if not more, lodges just within this northern section of the Sabi Sands, or close to where we are. So quite a few lodges around here. So there should be quite a few people out on game drive this morning, or on safari this morning. Just trying to, while we're driving, also just scanning very carefully for any tracks, signs of animals that might have crossed into Djuma or out of Djuma, just so that we know. Some young Nyala. Oh, brakes. Look at that beautiful male Nyala, but that looks like a young-ish one. Just need him to lift his head again. Yeah, they will still get much bigger. There's another one off to the right, also young-ish, almost full-grown though. Beautiful antelope. Those horns may still get a little bit bigger on the male Nyala. But they are beautiful antelope. And it's so interesting to see if can't see any females now, but if the females are around, how different the females are to the males. The beautiful reddish-brown coloration. The white stripes are a lot more prominent on them compared to the males. But always nice to see these male and Nyala together, and I think all that we've got here at the moment is a little bachelor herd. I saw another young Nyala just off to the left. You can't see it now, but there are at least 3 or 4 of them in this area now. Small little bachelor herd, which is not uncommon. Especially when they're younger, they'll stick together, and then what will then happen is the males will challenge each other for dominance, and they do that wonderful Nyala dance or display where they walk in circles around one another to try and basically chase off the other male and then attract the females, and that they may then mate with a group of females. Such a wonderful morning. Some birds calling around us. Just trying to see if I can see them. You know what they are? A wonderful red-backed shrike. You might actually see it if you have a look. This little tree just off to the right of the road, and the top little branch There it flies. As I said that, it flew away. I do apologize. Little redback shrike. Why it's so interesting is because these little redback shrikes migrate so far. Some of them have been known to fly all the way to Russia. There goes another one. It's just flying off. Unfortunately, they're flying very, very quickly. But they do fly incredible distances when they migrate. And like I said, Eastern Europe, which is just amazing for a tiny bird. I'll show you a picture of one. Let me quickly show you. I'll get my book out. And but it's, as I said, just for a bird that size to be able to travel so far, it really is incredible. Let me show you. There we go. It was 100% a redback shrike, that little one over there. Beautiful rufous brown to red back, and a little bit of buff coloration, I would say, underneath, and that grey head with that black streak across the eye. Beautiful little birds, the shrikes. Yeah, so this book, however, doesn't really give too much information on where they migrate to, but I've got my app here, and I'd like to just have a look and see if they've got any other information on where they actually migrate to. These little bird apps are incredible, and let's just have a look here quickly, and they're fairly easy to use, but I must admit, the bird apps, I feel better if you do know birding, or if you are a keen birder. Always start with a book and always have a book handy. But once you get into it, then the apps do help if you need additional information. Let me just see if they've got distribution breeds throughout most of Europe and Western Asia, north to Scandinavia, south to Israel. Isn't that incredible? How far they and then they migrate then half then extent of non-breeding range, so they don't breed down here. They only breed in the northern hemisphere by the sounds of things, and then they come all the way down to southern Africa and all the way down to South Africa, which is incredible. Amazing that these little birds can fly so far. All right, we're going to continue towards Cheetah Plains. Alright, and Jamie's got some beautiful Impala she'd like to show you.
Beautiful male Impala, and it seems as though a great deal of the animals are still fast asleep, if not in bed, then at least hidden behind the trees. But luckily we've managed to encounter this bachelor herd of Impala rams. And it's always interesting and thoroughly entertaining watching the rams at the moment. The females are all pregnant, and as a result, the males have become slightly confused and gone into what's known as the false rut. So they keep fighting each other. They've split up into their standard division of breeding herds and then these little bachelor groups. In the normal seasons, the bachelors will rejoin with the rest of the Impala herd, and everybody gets along swimmingly. But at this time of year, there is division in the ranks, and the males spend their times chasing the females around and fighting with each other, despite the fact that there is no chance of any of them having a chance to mate with a female. This one's got really nice white eye paint over his eyes. Now, Impala is a unique animal, and one of the reasons that it is unique is, of course, those glands that sit on the back legs. So those black patches that you're seeing, not just special pretty colouring, they do in fact hide what's known as the metatarsal gland, and it does have a very distinctive scent. I remember long ago, Scott with an Impala carcass, he went up and sort of rubbed his fingers on the gland and smelt it, and we all had a chance to smell what it smelt like, and it's a very distinctive, very musky scent. The funny thing about it is that nobody actually knows what it does. There's a lot of theories. The predominant one is that it helps them to stay together when they run off as a herd. So essentially it secretes a pheromone that they can all smell and stay together. They also, and I'm hoping he might turn his head, which would be very convenient. They also have glands on the top of their head, in between their horns. So not preorbital glands like a lot of the antelope, that's not what I mean. They literally have a gland that sits on the top of their heads. And the theory about that is that it actually is receptive to day length, and therefore they are able to time their estrus and mating cycles, which I think is probably nonsense. I think that is purely determined by hormones, but the idea is that as the days get shorter, then they go into the true rut and the females come into estrus, and then as the days get longer, then of course they start to give birth. Nibbling away quite happily with a very cheerful sounding bird in the background. Sounds like a scrub robin. It's quite a beautiful morning. I was going to say something about, oh yes, I remember what I was going to say because I saw it again on social media this morning. There is a myth about Impala that the females will hold back their pregnancy or hold back their births until the seasons are right. Animals can't do that. They cannot control their gestation periods. The only reason I think that we're going to see many late births is because of the conditions that the animals have been under. So the drought and so on, what it would have done is it would have meant that there was a slightly less successful rate in terms of fertilization when there was the true rut, and that meant that the females came into estrus or heat again and the males mated with them again. So it's one of those very common misconceptions. It's one of those guiding rumors that has been around as long as I've been alive. I remember being told this when I was 8 years old in the Pilanesberg, that impalas will hold back their pregnancy until the rains fall. They can't do that. Gestation period is a gestation period. You can't, those of you who have been mothers and who have been pregnant before, you'll know. When the baby wants to come, the baby's going to come, and it will be when it's ready. They absolutely cannot change when they give birth. Okay, little boys, we leave you to go. Sorry, I'm laughing. They're a little bit jumpy. And a very good morning to Dale. You wanted to know, is it Dale or Gale? Just to clarify, I think it's Dale. Or it could be Gale. We've got a Dale and a Gale. We've got several Gales who watch our show. Oh, okay. It is Dale. Good morning, Dale, and welcome back as always. You want to know what the rarest animal is out here? Well, the rarest animal to see, it's a funny one, that, because there are certain animals that obviously are more common in certain areas, but the rarest animal, by and large, in the Kruger National Park, mammal species, would probably be the pangolin, which is essentially a walking artichoke. It's basically the South African equivalent of an armadillo. And it wanders through, it's an incredible little creature. It's an anteater, only eats loves pugnacious ants, and it's covered in these overlapping scales, much like, as I said, a walking artichoke or a walking pine cone. And they are exceptionally rare and critically endangered. It's one of those unfortunate things. They're probably one of the most poached animals in the world. And that's due to traditional medicinal use in Eastern Asia. They use their scales in traditional medicine. And I remember not so long ago, quite a few times in the last few years, they've discovered tons and tons of pangolins being shipped illegally across to those areas. Pangolin is only about this big. It's only a couple of kilograms. When you think about how many pangolins it takes to sort of work out to be that amount, it's actually frightening. We have seen a pangolin on the live drive once. I say we. I didn't. I was on the other vehicle, unfortunately. It came as a great surprise to Dave, who at that point had only just started working as a safari live cameraman and never seen a pangolin before and was most confused, and it was on the Kruger National Park boundary with Brent. We have seen a pangolin before. It's relatively rare to see something like a sable antelope, which is a massive, very dark coloured, almost black coloured antelope with huge backward curving horns. One of them was on Djuma last year. It was seen on the Djuma Dam camera, but unfortunately we had no luck with it on the live drives. But that's not because sable are rarer than pangolin. It's because in terms of where we are, it's just unusual for them to be in this sort of habitat. So you can see the distinction there. A pangolin is exceptionally rare, and a sable is, whilst it has been endangered, the numbers are making a very good comeback, and it's just the wrong habitat for them. They're outcompeted by a lot of the species in this area. I've never seen an aardvark, so I'm inclined to say that an aardvark is one of the rarest animals. And for some reason I've never seen a porcupine here either, which is not a rare animal at all, but I've just never seen one here. I don't know where they're hiding. I know they're here. And I think an aardvark is a funny one, because I think I've got some kind of, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a selective blindness that I just don't see aardvark. I even had a dream about seeing one not so long ago. But I still haven't seen one. In the wild, that is. David, on the subject of pangolin, fantastic little creatures, and I've been fortunate enough to see them a few times, and it's always incredibly exciting. We don't have giant pangolin. Of course, there are different species throughout the world. Right through to Asia, there's tree climbing pangolins and all sorts of fascinating little creatures, all part of the pangolin. I've got to try and remember the order now. It'll come back to me. It will come back to me. But no, our pangolins are just standard African pangolins, and there's only one species that we get here. As you go further north into Africa, you'll start to get all kinds of unusual and interesting pangolins, and then of course into Asia as well. So there's a couple, I can't remember exactly how many different species of pangolin there are. Perhaps those of you with Google at your fingertips can let me know just how many species there are. Remember, I've read it recently. I've read it on a poster, but I don't want to guess and give you the wrong number. But there are lots of different species of pangolin. Males are a lot bigger than the females, and the females, this is something, it's a dream of mine to see, and I've never seen it, is because the females carry their babies on their backs. So you get the pangolin, and then you get the little pangolin gripping on the top of it. I've never seen that in the wild, and it's a dream to see it. At the moment though, it would be a dream to see any animal. I don't know where they all are. They're asleep still. This is usually quite a good spot to see animals. Tinder, you wanted to know where the animals hide. I'd love to know. when it's raining. They will cluster in some dense vegetation, but for the most part, they're not terribly bothered by it. If it's a real sort of downpour, deluge, with the rain driving down and the wind blowing, the animals might go and lie down in dense vegetation just to try and sort of shelter themselves from it. The big cats actually are often more mobile in that sort of weather. It's good hunting weather for them, and they don't get as hot, so they're often out and about in that sort of weather. So most of the animals out here are not too concerned with hiding away. If there is a big lightning storm, this is something that I've just seen from personal observation, the elephants of the area, and I've seen it happen once, they seem to know when there's going to be a massive lightning strike, and that comes purely from having seen a very peaceful herd. It was almost a day like today. It was a sort of a nondescript cloudy day. Didn't seem like a thunderstorm day at all. And the elephants were all standing in the riverbed. It was drizzling slightly. They were feeding quite happily, nice and cool. And then, without warning, there was this deep, low rumble from one of the females, and they all ran. They disappeared so quickly. What have you all been... I'm going to try and show you a roller that was feeding on some termites, but they've flown off. But yes, the elephants all disappeared so fast, and then seconds later there was a flash of lightning and a massive rumble of thunder. I think the animals do have a way of, especially elephants, of predicting, and we know that from things like earthquakes and tsunamis and so on. The animals do have a better instinct than we do in terms of predicting the weather. I, for example, am completely useless. If I say it's not going to rain, it rains. If I say it isn't going to rain, I get caught in a downpour. since all of my animals are hiding, it seems as though Byron has had slightly more success. Let's go over to him and see what he's found.
We do indeed a dazzle of zebra. And look how beautiful these zebra are. It's so nice to see a group of zebra. This is quite a large group from what I'm used to. There's quite a few through to the back. You might not necessarily be able to see them, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 in this little group that we can see there, and then there's about 5 further back. So a nice, decent little herd of zebra. And you can hear the Coqui Francolin calling behind us. Can't see it though, it's in some very thick bush. I don't think we'll be able to see it. And these zebra are all trying to feed on this green grass that's around here at the moment. Oh, beautiful, beautiful animals. Nice to see the zebra. Where did they all disappear to? It's so funny. Hang on. Might be 1 or 2 coming out just behind us. Still behind the tree though. We've got a nice view of those though. It's almost like we don't know where to look. And just, if you ever look again, sorry, that's fine. Sorry, just on that again, we always get the questions, why do the zebras have stripes and what is the reason for it? Now have a look. I mean, if you see them moving through there, especially in a group like that, it can be tricky to see where one zebra starts and where another one stops, or how many zebra there are actually in there. And that's right in the middle. There are 2 zebra, but it actually becomes difficult to distinguish between the 2 a little bit. The theory is that, you see there's a 3rd zebra, there's a head, but the theory is that the coloration and the stripes prevent predators from distinguishing between each individual. It makes it harder for them to hunt. So while they are running in a group away from danger, those stripes cause this dazzle, and that's where the dazzle of zebra come from, I believe. And they make it very difficult for the predator to see where one starts and where the other one stops. So it's to try and throw the predator off, so that it makes it harder to hunt. And that's the theory, and that's probably the theory that I agree with the most. There are some other theories, but one of the others is that it helps regulate body temperature, but I don't think so. I don't think that's very accurate at all. But I think that one with the dazzle and the stripes blending in with one another is probably very accurate. Maria, you want to know, do the zebra have a birthing season? Not necessarily, Maria. They can give birth throughout the year, but like most animals, they do tend to prefer summer. But they don't necessarily have a specific season. Charlie, you wanted to know about the zebras when they are younger, when they're born. Are the stripes brown in coloration and then darken with age? So Charlie, not necessarily, no. They still have the black and white stripes. However, with these Burchell zebra or the plains zebra, which we are seeing here, they do occasionally have brown stripes or brown shadows in between the black and white stripes. You can see a bit of a shadow over there. And it also depends on, to be honest, it depends on the soil and the area that they're in. Some of the youngsters, you might get a bit of brown coloration on them, but you excuse me, you can still see the black and white stripes very clearly. And this brown coloration also depends on the area that they're in, because what does happen is these animals, or the zebra, do like to dust bathe. They roll around in the sand quite a lot, and that's to help protect their skin from the flies and the insects that sit on them. So they tend to look a little brownish in coloration at times because of all the dust bathing that they do. And again, it depends on the area that they're in. If they're in areas where the soil is a lot redder, you might get a reddish brown coloration to the zebra. I've seen that up in the Kalahari, the northwestern part of South Africa, extending into extending into Namibia and Botswana, and those areas the soil is very red in coloration, so the zebra do get brownish red coloration on their backs at times, and that's just from rolling in the sand. Ilana, good morning, Ilana. You apparently 13 years old. Lovely to have you watching. Always nice when we have our younger viewers sending in questions and hopefully learning a lot. And you would like to know if the zebra are considered to be antelope. And no, they're not at all. The zebra are actually very closely related to horses. So they are not antelope at all. They're a completely different family. Spiro, you want to know why the zebra are twitching? So it's muscle contractions in the skin, and what it usually is to try and get rid of the flies and the ticks, or usually the flies, the biting flies that sit on the zebra. So it's that just muscles twitching within the skin, and to try and get those animals to try and get the flies off of them. And you see their tails are constantly swishing about, and that's to try and keep flies off of them too. What they'll occasionally do, and if you're lucky you might get to see it, the zebras basically stand head to tail, and they swish their tails around and keep the flies out of each other's faces. It does happen at times, but the twitching is just a bit of a what's a reflex. It's reflexes in the skin, and if something sits on them with anything, they just twitch to try and keep it off of them. Interesting to see though, isn't that? Very, very interesting behavior. Lance, you want to know if the zebra are prone to mange? Now, Lance, I actually don't know. And the reason I say I've never seen zebra with mange out in these areas, so I don't know if they are able to get it. I mean, if you. I really don't know, Lance. I've never seen it. I mean, this was the first time this season now in my guiding career. This was the first time that I saw animals with mange, like those lions, and there's a little Coqui Francolin very close to us somewhere. Sitting right here. I wonder if we can try show you where he is. I'm going to reverse a little bit. So Lance, as I was saying, excuse. Okay. So Lance, as I was saying, I haven't been able to. Well, I just haven't seen animals with mange before in the past. It's the first time I've seen lions contract mange in this area because of the bad drought. And I mean, I've been going to the bush for many, many years. I think it all depends on the season and because of the drought. Just trying to see where that Coqui Francolin has gone now. It's coming through. It's walking just over here. Through there, you might get it in the open. There we go. There's the Coqui Francolin. Look at that. Wonderful. It's not a Francolin that we see very often. We hear them a lot, but we don't always see them. And you can see how secretive they are, running through the scrub, trying to hide away. Look at that. Maybe we're lucky and it comes running across the road. Let's have a look. And if I know these birds, it might be a very quick dart across the road. Let's see. Here it comes. My head. Let's see. There it is. There it goes. Wonderful. Beautiful bird. Beautiful little Francolin. Look at that. Those markings, that reddish brown head, rufous coloured head, and the there it goes. That's a nice little sighting of a Coqui Francolin. Right, I think we're going to carry on. We're almost on Cheetah Plains now, not too far to go. Oh, what a wonderful sighting. The zebra and the Coqui Francolin. Really, really nice little area this. And let's see what else we can find. And let's head back to Jamie so long and get an update from her. Maybe she's managed to find some animals too.
The cat streak starts again. I was actually stopped at an oxpecker nest, and right at that moment, as I stopped, I heard the sound of this gentleman roaring away in the beautiful morning light. Hello, boy. Where have you been hiding, mister? Now we are on the great open area, or one of the open areas of Arathusa, very, very close to the Djuma boundary. And I might have to be on the Game Drive comms in a little bit, just to control the sighting so that people can come and join us. But let's go around, since he is determinedly, I was hoping for a nice backlit mane, but he is somewhat determinedly facing the opposite direction. Let's go and get a view of his beautiful face, and then in about 4 minutes' time, hopefully, he's going to start roaring again. That would be lovely. I think it looks like Mfumo from the back of his head. It's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? But I'm pretty sure it's him. Let's go and see. Hello, mister. Someone's looking a little drooly this morning. And very, very, very full. He's obviously been feeding on something. So for our new viewers, this is one of the dominant male lions of this area. So they are, all four of them collectively, known as the Birmingham boys, or else the Gowrie males. And they were once 5 members strong. Very sadly, they lost a member a couple of months ago, and one of their youngest members. And he is panting heavily. Now, he's obviously got one very full belly. But yes, the Birmingham boys came in a year and a half ago. As I said, 5 of them. The youngest one, or one of the youngest ones, actually eventually died of injuries related to what we think was a failed buffalo hunt, or maybe a successful buffalo hunt. Hello, boy. Panting away. He's been panting so much that he's actually worked up quite the saliva amount all over his chin. I think he's going to give us another awesome display of his roaring ability. The Birmingham boys have been quite scattered. The Inkahumas, one of the prides that we see the most regularly, and one of the prides that they are dominant over, have been on a property that's outside of our Traverse area. So they have been on Simbambili. And as a result, at least one of the male lions has been with them the entire time. The last time we saw 2 lions, it was Amber Eyes and Mfumo, and they looked like they were courting. I wonder why this guy's on his own. He might just have split away from the rest of the group. Male lions, especially in dominant coalitions, often move about. basically roaring, displaying, and making sure that the other males in the area know that they are dominant, that this is their patch, and that they are not to be trifled with. So they will split up and divide and conquer, essentially, in order to make sure that they cover ground efficiently, and then they'll rejoin once again. And he may well be roaring as a way of letting everybody know where he is, and also to contact call and to figure out where his buddies are. Where were you, mister, when we needed you yesterday for our cat streak? Of course, these are completely wild animals, so they don't necessarily... Oh, goodness, sorry. They don't necessarily keep to our schedule. You can see the manes of the Birmingham boys are starting to go dark. Not starting, they have been getting darker for a few months now, particularly on Nsugu, or Blondie, as he is known. But that is a sign of a maturing male lion. So as they start to get older, and amounts of testosterone in their bodies start to darken their manes. That's not always the case, of course. Genetics will play a role as well. Can we zoom in on his upper lip, please, Viam? Just want to see. Sorry, hold on one moment, everybody. I just need to jump on the Game Drive channel. Standing by. Affirmative, you're more than welcome to. Sure, he is so full, and he is panting away. I think we're looking at Tinyo, or Birmingham boy number 3. I just think that scar on his lip has actually healed up almost completely. I'm not sure, though. I'm trying to work out which Birmingham boy we're looking at. It just goes to show you've got to be so careful. Let's just go around one little bit more. I'll know when I see his ear. Hello, mister. Do you mind if I go forward a little bit? If you could very kindly turn your head so I can see your right ear, because that definitely won't have healed. And Tinyo has a half moon out of the top of his right ear. Now that would be a defining feature of this particular male lion. It seems as though Tinyo, whose original name means tooth, or his name means tooth, and that was because he had a split lip, which you could actually see his canine through when he closed his mouth. Obviously you can see his canines quite clearly now. He's giving us a beautiful view of them. He's also giving us a really nice view of the spurs on his tongue, now that I look at it. Look here. Remember how we often talk about, those of you with domestic cats will know all about the rough tongue of... Oh, he's got some blood on his face as well. He's been fighting. But you'll know all about the backwards-facing spurs on a cat's tongue. In lions, those spurs are so incredibly rough that they can actually strip away meat from bone. They are incredibly well developed. I wonder where that could have been from what he was eating, but I think he's actually got a little wound there on his face. Perhaps a scrap with one of the other Birmingham boys. Maybe even over Amber Eyes, although that's speculation, but she was coming into estrus. So we've seen Tinyo and Mfumo fight quite regularly over the last few weeks. Come on, boy. You are due for a roar in the not-too-distant future. Oh, it's Tinyo. That patchy belly. He's got a skin condition that might be mange. It might also be a fungal infection, but he has always been the worst affected of the Birmingham boys. It doesn't harm him, really, in any way. It's just very, very apparent. Right, I need to do some chattering on the Game Drive channel, and luckily it is not just Byron and myself out this morning, and I'm sure that Stef would really like to bid you a very good morning.
Oh, good morning, and welcome to the bushwalk part of this morning's AM Safari. I'm Stef on camera today. We've got Jandre, and right off the bat, I've got something exciting to show you. Have a look at this guy. Let me first just uncover the most horrifying face you are likely to see out here. Now, before I tell you what this is, I'm just going to say that this is probably one of the very reasons that we do bushwalks out here, is to uncover these fantastic little creatures that you're looking at right now. We're not really geared to looking at big stuff. Generally on foot, big things want to chase you up termite mounds and up trees, and so we tend to concentrate on these. And this is a Solifuge, or a camel spider, or a Roman spider, or a sun spider, depending on where you are on the planet. They are fairly common in the drier desert type areas around the world. But just have a look at that. That is now a face that only a mother can love, don't you think? Incredibly strong jaws, no venom. This is a Solifuge, which is an arachnid but not a spider. And just look at that, covered in these sensory hairs. Basically, all these hairs that you see around it are how the spider sees the world or perceives the world around it. This is the nocturnal Solifuge. The diurnal or daytime Solifuges are about half the size and covered in a much denser coating of hair. But you can see that in some places, these hairs, in particular on these pedipalps, which are these two thickened front legs here, are much longer. Have a look at that hair there. That is what we call a trichobothria. And that is basically an exposed nerve that is very sensitive to pressure changes. And that's how this spider perceives insects moving around it. They move around at very high speeds. I'm told up to 16 kilometers per hour, which is incredible. It's 10 miles an hour for something this small. I mean, it must feel like it's approaching light speed when you're this small and that close to the ground. Running into an area, detecting an insect moving by the pressure that it creates in the environment around it, the pressure differences, biting into it with these massive jaws, those 4 sharp teeth, we call them chelicerae, and then using a shearing motion, so sideways motion, very similar to garden shears or a pair of scissors, would dismember the prey item and then eating it. Obviously, needing a lot of fuel to provide the metabolic energy for this spider. Now, why am I able to pick it up? This spider looks like it was probably stung by a wasp of some sort, or I don't know, maybe a prey item, and him had a bit of a fight and he managed to get away, but he's not doing too well. Quite often wasps will sting spiders like this, paralyzing them. The wasp then either cleans off all the non-essential heavy items like the legs and the head, taking the rest of the body away, laying an egg on it, and while this animal is still alive, basically will eat it, the larvae of the wasp, using the body of the spider to gain enough energy to metamorphosize into a wasp. Now, on that pretty note, we're going to send you to something infinitely pretty, or prettier than this at least anyway, with Jamie and that lion.
It seems as though our big male lion has company on this massive open area, in the form of what is known as a black-bellied bustard. You can see it is most definitely a male, with that black extending all the way from the bottom of the tail right to underneath his chin. So this is the bird that makes a sound like a champagne cork being popped out of the bottle, the one that Herbie can imitate so very well. It's a whistle and then a fantastic little almost comical pop at the end. You can see a bird built for subtlety and camouflage, at least on top, and then of course the black underbelly for displaying purposes. And I really always think it looks as though they're pulling themselves forward by their necks. As our black-bellied bustard wanders off, it's most definitely Tinyo. And now that I see it, I can see him very, very clearly. And it does just go to show, sorry, I have to turn this game drive radio down a little bit. It does just go to show how difficult it can, not difficult it can get to identify male lions, but how careful that you have to be in terms of their scarring. Because when we saw that cut on his lip, that split, we thought that was going to be a permanent feature. And although it probably is underneath the fur, there's probably still that scar there. It has healed up and disappeared almost completely, and it's probably only really slightly apparent when he closes his mouth. The skin is just that little bit tighter around that particular part of him. For our new viewers, a couple of months ago, a good few months ago now, Tinyo had a really nasty injury. It was split open completely, and it looked as though it was very, very painful for him. It was making his whole face twitch every time he moved it or every time a fly sat near it. Their immune system of these creatures is so incredibly powerful that he was able to heal up. He really does look as though he swallowed something whole. Perhaps a small buffalo all to himself. His belly is so large he actually can't find a comfortable place to sit, and that's why he's panting so heavily. It's not because he's ill. He's absolutely fine, and it's very, very common to see this sort of breathing for a big cat that has overindulged. Think of it as sort of post-big Sunday lunch or something similar. And the saliva and the froth is relatively normal. We'll see it with all of the big cats. Come on, boy. One more roar for us. I know we just missed your last one. William, one of the big reasons that I've been listening to the Game Drive channel in terms of trying to figure out exactly what's going on. The Game Drive radio is a way in which we all communicate with each other and share our sightings. And good question, William. You wanted to know whether or not the pride could be somewhere nearby with a fresh kill. Probably, although it sounds as though they're around Simbambili. Sorry, bear with me one moment. Morning. Hi, guys. Good, thanks, Roy. How are you? So they did have a buffalo kill on Simbambili, and it sounds as though the guys are tracking them. It looks as though they might still be around Simbambili, which is just to the north of us. We're not far from the Simbambili boundary. Unfortunately, that is outside of our traverse area. But yes, I think that that's where he's been. I think he's been with the rest of the pride, gorging himself on buffalo. And by the looks of things, he got the lion's share of that particular meal, which the females have come to accept as their due in life. When a male is present, they know that they're going to struggle to get any food until he lets them. And the male lion usually moves in first, feeds first, and consumes most of the meal. The females will come. The cubs can share with him because they are part of his bloodline, or at least he believes they are, and they probably are. But the females will have to wait until he's done. A couple of fresh scars, fresh wounds on his face. So I think he has had a little bit of a confrontation. But that's basically polite dinner conversation for lions. They very often fight each other. Looks as though somebody's trimmed his whiskers. That's not possible, of course. But it does look as though the ends of them are very shortened. Ooh, are we thinking about roaring, or are we just very hot? I think he's just very hot. Now, the reason he's panting in the way that he is, apart from the fact that his belly is so full that it's pushing against his diaphragm, and therefore making deep breaths a little bit harder, the reason that he's panting in the way that he is that he's hot. He is really, really very hot. And that's because with the digestion and the breakdown of meat, obviously there's a great deal of bacteria in his digestive system. It's healthy for a lion, but it's not a very hygienic or healthy place inside his stomach and his intestines. And as a result, all of that breakdown of the meat is releasing a huge amount of heat. And that's what's making him so very, very warm. Shame his cheek's a bit sore. He's rubbing it. That's how he spread blood down onto his mane. See him rubbing up against it. Licking his paws and then rubbing up against that slight puncture wound. It's nothing too serious. He'll heal up in a couple of days. As I've mentioned before, these lions have had far worse in the way of injuries. But obviously he can't reach across there and lick it, so now he's worrying at it with his leg. And that's usually what keeps these injuries open, actually. We've seen it with him before on his face. There you can see he's starting to spread the blood around a little bit. Shame, boy. If you keep rubbing it, it's not going to heal. I'm not going to heal as easily. Long, leisurely clean. Oh, yawn. You can see his canines are starting to yellow and age, and it does actually, you can see just how powerful those canines are. It gives us a beautiful view of both the canines and the tongues. Unfortunately, we are going to have to leave him in a not too distant future. We're going to have to make space for some of the other vehicles. As soon as another vehicle arrives, then it will be time for us to move off. It sounds as though they're relatively close, but I'll let you know. We've got a few more minutes with him at least. I'm hoping we might get a roar before we have to leave. So what that means for our new viewers is that out here, in order to not pressure the animals in any way, it's limited to 3 vehicles with the animal at any one time, just to make sure that we don't abuse the privilege of being in their space and having these opportunities to see them. And of course, there are lots of lodges around here and their guests that would love to enjoy this experience. So once they do start arriving, then we will leave and give them that opportunity. Come on, boy. One roar for us to solidly start our cat streak again. I'm sorry, I'm not deliberately getting your names wrong. Unfortunately, I am struggling a little bit to be able to hear Rebecca, who's feeding through your questions. But I think it was Alice who asked about why his skin is so wrinkly on his back legs. Alice, I think it's Alice, and my apologies if it's not Alice, or it's something like Daniel or Keith, or I'm struggling to hear. The reason his skin is so wrinkly there is just because that's the way that he's lying. So once it's just sort of curled up because his legs are folded in, so his skin is wrinkly around there. Nothing to worry about him. He might be a little bit dehydrated, and that could be what's sort of exacerbating the wrinkles, but I don't think so. I think it's just the position of his legs. Giving himself a thorough cleaning. Okay. Just a message for Rebecca, and I'm sorry that we have to do this, but of course I can't hear at all. Rebecca, I'm just going to switch my phone on so that you can contact me that way. There we go. Okay, so there we go. I've got my phone on so that Rebecca can send through your questions without having to worry. And I'm going to be... Come on, one roar, boy. One roar. One roar for us before we have to go. Or are we going to carry on? No, we're going to carry on with the foot cleaning. Sorry, bear with me one moment. Morning, Sean. How are you? Hi guys. Station on standby 1 for Madura and Gala. Come in. Oh, okay, copy. When you're ready, I will pull out for you. Okay, we can stay a few more minutes. One of the other vehicles was on his way here, but has just found a leopard in a marula tree, and not too far from us. So once we do leave this male line, then we will try and find out a little bit more in the way of information. Sorry, hold on 1 second. Okay, well there we go. We might actually break our cat streak thoroughly by... Where is this vehicle? Sorry. Ingwe. The leopard is within view, apparently, or at least his vehicle is within view. Unfortunately, there's a vehicle in our way, but there is in fact a leopard almost right next to this lion. Not right next to, he's a couple of 100 meters away. So we will be hopefully going to join that sighting in a not too distant future. Lance, a very good morning to you. Sorry about the distraction and all the conversations. Lance, you want to know what the function of whiskers are on a lion. Exactly the same as a cat or a dog. It forms a very, very important sensory function, particularly when they're hunting at night. Obviously, they've got incredible eyesight, but if they're racing through thick vegetation, chasing after something, having those projecting whiskers on either side of his face will also help him to protect his face and protect his eyes from branches and thorns and so on. So they just form a very important sensory function. The nerves are phenomenally sensitive, and if you have a look at a lion's skull, you will see just how much in terms of anatomy goes into the functioning of the whiskers and the muscles and the nerves around the mouth. So if you look at a lion's skull, they've got a massive canal, a hole in their skull on either side of their cheekbones where the nerve centers run through. So the nerves travel down to the whiskers, and there's a huge amount of sensory input that comes from them. So their whiskers are very, very sensitive. Now, it's been phenomenal to witness the change in these lions, from the darkening of their noses and the sort of the yellowing of their canines right up to the development of their manes. And Nature Fox, good morning to you. You want to know how long it takes for a lion's mane to form fully or to grow fully. It actually, funnily enough, depends on where you are in the different parts of Africa. So in certain areas, lions take a great deal longer than others in terms of their full development of their manes. And I will get back to you on exactly which countries. I can't remember off the top of my head the exact facts and figures. But in the Sabi Sand, or in South Africa, it's probably going to take him another year or so for that mane to really be fully developed. But the change has been phenomenal. When Tinyo first entered onto the scene, his mane was a mohawk, essentially. He barely had any hair between his ears and the top part of his mane, and it was blonde. Now, of course, it's slowly darkening, spreading down the shoulders. But it does also depend upon the genetics of the animal. So some lions will have a more developed mane than others. Hairy Belly, for example, he had a mane that went all the way down to his belly. And that's probably one of the biggest manes that has been, or one of the biggest manes in the Sabi Sand. I'm trying to see if I can see where this leopard is. Not far away at all. He's still panting away. I don't think he's going to roar. Right, we're going to sit here and just wait until the next vehicle gets here. While we do, let us head over to Byron and find out how his morning's going on Cheetah Plains.
So we've just got onto Cheetah Plains, everyone. We're driving around. We haven't had any sign of mammals yet, or animals walking around. Not yet, though. We're going to head towards the clearings very soon. But I have seen some interesting birds, and we found something really interesting. Just off to our right, there's a little hole in that tree stump. This is an old marula. And there's a little hole there. Why that is so interesting is because and we might get lucky. Let's just watch, and it will all unveil shortly. Let's have a look. I'm just going to keep my voice down a little bit. Here we go. It's a yellow-billed hornbill nest. Isn't that wonderful? That was perfect timing. That was the male. He just came in and dropped some food off through the hole. And I don't know if we'll be able to see any movement in there at the moment. But isn't that incredible? So what happens is, and it's a fascinating story with the hornbills. So the female, once the male and female have mated, the female goes into a little hole like that in the stump of a tree, and what she does is she then will help cover the hole, the entrance to the hole. The male will come and bring mud, and they'll pack that hole closed. You can actually see there's a little bit of mud there. So they form just this little hole, little slit in the bark, or in the stem of the tree. And the female then actually plucks her feathers, and she uses that to lay down the base of the nest, and she will then stay in there and lay the eggs. And then after a while, once the eggs have hatched, once she's incubated the eggs and the eggs have hatched, she will then look after those little chicks in there and keep them warm until the feathers all grow back, and those little chicks grow their feathers and they're ready to leave the hole. But in the meantime, they rely completely on that male, and the male will fly to the nest daily, and he'll drop food in for the female and feed them, and especially the chicks then once they get a little bit older. But isn't that incredible? Amazing. And it's wonderful that I got to show you this little nest now, the little hole of the hornbill. Not sure where that male is. He's probably gone off again to find some more food. But have a look again. It's really, really incredible. And I could see with binoculars, I could see a bit of movement in there. Probably the female, or as you could see when the male came through and brought her some food. Let's just see, maybe we get a little bit of movement in there. But there you can see the mud that's been packed around the edge. And how they've packed it slit completely. Very interesting. But what a wonderful relationship, and it's incredible the trust that the female has for that male to bring her food. And if something happens to the male, then chances are the female probably wouldn't make it. So it's incredibly trusting relationship, and they rely completely on that male bringing food back to them. What a wonderful little story out in the bush. All right, speaking of stories and interesting finds, let's head over to Stef and see what he's got on the bushwalk.
No, isn't it one of those fantastic things that we get to spend time with all these wonderful creatures? Now, just like those hornbills that you were having a look at, a lot of animals here leave signs of what they're doing, their feeding sign or their behaviors, and you can read that in the sand. We call that track and sign interpretation, or grouped under tracking. And what we've got here is we've got a little very awesome little, I suppose, experiment, an observation to show you. We've got this excavation here in the sand. Now, you can obviously see that it's a hole that is not natural, and around it you can see disturbed sand. All the way around it, almost 360 degrees, you can see disturbed sand. And what that tells me is that whatever dug this hole was really trying hard to get at something, digging a bit this side and digging a bit that side and digging a bit that side. And one of the first animals that comes to mind would obviously be something like an aardvark or a pangolin or a porcupine or a honey badger. Those four animals are the ones that would make excavations like this. I immediately would discount an aardvark. Aardvark are huge animals, and doing an excavation like this wouldn't have taken a lot of effort at all. What they would have done is literally just scoop their hand up and it would have been done. They wouldn't have spent time creating this halo of sand around it. Could it be an pangolin? Absolutely, it could be a pangolin. Could it be a porcupine? I don't see any evidence here of any roots being excavated. And so I discounted aardvark and porcupine on those two bases, which left me with two options, honey badger or pangolin. Now, of course, what we do is we always want to see pangolin, and so the first thing that happened when we came here was I noticed these ants. So let me just swap around. I'm going to cross over in front of you here quickly. I noticed these ants, and I immediately said, yes, we found the evidence of a pangolin feeding. Pangolin feed on termites and ants, and as you can see when you look down inside here, lots of ants and even a termite. Have a look there. There's a termite there. And I thought to myself, yes, we've got a pangolin excavation. And then I set about trying to convince myself that that was a pangolin. And as I had a look around here looking for some tracks, I noticed that here was a footprint and here was a footprint. Slightly worrying to me though at this point was the fact that I could see 1, 2, 3 toes arrayed close together in a very distinctive pattern. And then next we found this. Have a look here. There and there is what has given it away. So that is what's left over after a honey badger dug here very quickly for a scorpion retreating down its burrow. The honey badger needed to dig out and excavate this particular scorpion before it reached too much of a depth and he lost it. And what we're witnessing over here in the tracks in the sand is a honey badger that has done this, not a pangolin. Isn't that incredible? So quickly chewed off the tail, got rid of the dangerous part, ate the rest of the scorpion, and they're quite messy feeders, honey badgers, and then wasted a pincer here, which would have given it quite a lot of food. Actually, that muscle inside these pincers is actually quite nutritious. And you can see that it's still fresh. Happened sometime last night. A shiny burrowing scorpion became the food for a honey badger. So just to recap again, it looked like the excavations of the pangolin, but when you have a look at it in its entirety, that frenzied halo of sand around these excavations, the one track with those 3 toes quite close together, they're arrayed like the tips of my fingers, and then of course the leftover scorpion parts, that confirms that this is a honey badger, even down to a bit of saliva that came out over here. It's either a bit of saliva or it's a bit of urine that has come out in the frenzy to get to this particular scorpion. So a whole story. So what we're going to do now is let's just take a step back and see if you can see it the same way we did. So have a look at what we're looking at right now. Coming up to an excavation like this, you don't really know what it is, but we can see this halo of sand. We're noticing a hole that has ants and termites in it. We're looking for some tracks. Found a track with 1, 2, 3 toes. Quite large toes arrayed close together. That started to tell me, hey, it's not a pangolin. Pangolin tracks are much smaller than that, and you can't really see their toes all that clearly. And then boom, finding the leftovers of the scorpion right there. Interesting, hey? All right, and I think on that note, why don't we go see what that beautiful lion is up to.
And we are still with our massive male lion, and I do apologize for the odd delay every now and again. I just have to wait for the messages to come through from Jerry to let me know whether or not we are live. But we make a plan when things go wrong, and our big male lion has just finished roaring and has started making his way off in the direction of where the leopard is. I haven't been able to find out exactly which leopard it is. From what I can hear, it sounds like it might be Shadow. And he's looking off in her direction. A male lion like this would be a threat to her if he could catch her, but apparently she is up in a marula tree, so you don't need to worry too much about her, but she is very, very close to where we are. So if he does get up and start moving in that direction, we will have to leave the area. Just unfortunately, because there are 3 vehicles already with this leopard, we won't be able to follow him in. And it's always an interesting managing the logistics of one moving sighting, and that's, to being with an animal that's moving, when they're about to encounter another animal with people who are in that sighting. And there's very, very stringent rules in terms of how we handle that and who actually essentially peels off away from that situation. And if you are with the animal that's moving, you're in the position that you must leave if they are about to bump into another sighting. It's something that we've experienced a few times. We will be going to join that leopard in the not too distant future. We're just waiting for our chance to go ahead and be part of it. For now, though, I don't think he's interested in moving off too far. He did get up and move slightly, though, and when he did, I did see that he has quite a limp. His left front foot is sore, and we've seen the scars and injuries. I've seen those before, though, so I'm not quite sure what it is that's causing him discomfort. It might be a pulled tendon. It could be anything, and probably from the same skirmish that gave him the puncture in his face. So he is limping a little bit. He's actually feeling a little bit sorry for himself. But that is the way that male lions' lives go. They are always full of limps and injuries. Oh, look who's come back. Hello. You return to us once again, black-bellied Bustard. Perhaps since our lion doesn't want to roar for us, perhaps we'll have a chance to see the Bustard calling. Such comical birds. The name is black-bellied Bustard. It's Bustard. So it is a Bustard. Stopping to pick up grass seeds and any insects that he happens to find as well. And we've seen them displaying recently, doing their call, and also I've actually even seen them fighting with each other. And one of my favorite birds to see. Morning. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Just want to try and find out which leopard they have been looking at. I think we might actually be able to go and join it. But before we do, Elena or Ilana, I'm not sure, sorry, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name. Ilana is 13 years old and wants to know what is the average lifespan for a male lion. Ilana, it's around about 10 years old in these areas. So a lion, of course, can, here we go, you'll see how he's limping. Sorry, Ilana, hold on a second. Duck out of the way of the camera. Here you can see it is hurting him. He is a little bit uncomfortable. It's definitely his left front foot. can see how he's landing heavily on his front right. Okay, he's going right across. Is he going to lie down again? Yep. Oh. Why did you even bother to move there? Baby steps, yes. Baby steps indeed. Flop down. Life's tough when you've got such a full belly. Difficult to move off. It's difficult to motivate yourself to move. And of course he's got that additional limp. I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about. Dominant male lions always have nicks and scratches and limps. Now Alana is sorry. You wanted to know about how long what an average male lifespan is, and I said 10 years. There will always be exceptions to that rule, of course. That's just an average. And of course bear in mind that a lot of male lions are killed before they even reach... How cool is that? There we go. Finally. Thank you, mister. Isn't that an incredible sound? For those of you that have never had the opportunity to experience a moment like that in person, the vibrations of a lion's roar travel through the ground and you can actually feel them in your chest. I have my one foot on the bottom of Rusty, resting just next to the pedals, and I could actually feel the bottom of the car vibrating. It is the most amazing sound. Oh, that was incredible. Thank you, mister. I'm glad that we had that opportunity. That was very cool indeed. Right, sorry, Alana. Shall I try and finish your questions now? Your question now. I'm sorry. So yes, you can get lions living up to male lions living up to 13 or 14, but because their lives are particularly rough, they tend to have a shorter lifespan than the females. And while we're watching him after that incredible display, you'll notice his tail flicking and his ears flicking every now and again. And Courtney, that's the answer to your question about the incredible, or the way that they manage to avoid biting flies. Right, now it sounds as though, from what I can hear, I say sounds, from what I can see, it looks as though Byron has found a really exciting first of the season.
We have indeed. Look here, everyone. These Wildebeest have just calved, and that one on the right is a brand new born. Look at that. It's still uneasy on its legs. Oh, look, there we go. You can see the umbilical cord. We must have missed the birth by a few minutes. Look at that, trying to learn how to move and use its legs. Look at that. That is wonderful. There's another little calf lying in front of the female in the middle of the screen now. But that little one, look at that. Oh, this is wonderful. Now, there are at least 3 or 4 little calves around. And they all would have been born this week. Very, very recently. But that one was born a few minutes ago. Maybe, I would say probably 15 to 20 minutes ago. Isn't that incredible? The female has been cleaning it, trying to get rid of that scent of the placenta and that was on there. Make sure it's all cleaned off. But they actually don't smell very bad, and it's one of the ways that they avoid predators. That smell isn't strong at all. And also the wildebeest are clever. They've come out onto the clearings to give birth so that they can see if there's any danger coming and potentially protect those little calves very, very well while they're out in the open. But isn't it amazing how very soon after birth those little wildebeest calves are able to get up and move around? And look at that one suckling at the moment. The other one's just lying down, the one to the right. But you can see that other one to the right is a bit older. The skin isn't as dark as the one on the left. The other one just appears dark because it was just born, so it's still very wet. Whereas the one on the right is a little bit more of a brownish coloration. This is really, really special. And yeah, first for us for this season, the first wildebeest calves. So that's very, very nice. There hasn't been too much else moving around through these clearings, but this is enough. This is such a wonderful surprise. Cindy, you wanted to know if wildebeest ever have twins. Cindy, I'm not sure, but I've never seen a wildebeest give birth to twins. I mean, it could possibly happen. I doubt it, though. I doubt it, but it could possibly happen, Cindy. But I've never seen it. I've never seen it in the wild, so I'm not sure. Just going to check in the book quickly if they have got any record of it. But some of these little mammal books don't give in-depth information about wildebeest, and I doubt they'd give anything about that. And so, Cindy, in most books, and the one that I've got here, the mammal book, it says that they only give birth to a single calf. So, as I said, I've never seen it. There might be a possibility, but I don't think so. I think all these antelope species, it's one calf and that's it that they can look after. One animal out here that can potentially give birth to twins is elephant. And Bree, you want to know how long does it take these baby wildebeest to get up and stand and start running around? So literally 5 maybe 10 minutes. Very, very quick. Very, very, very quick. And they have to, because if not, they'll be easy prey for the predators, so they need to get up and move around very, very quickly. Stephanie, you wanted to know the other ones laying down, are they potentially going to give birth soon? Stephanie, I'm not sure. There could be there could definitely be a chance of that happening. Just trying to have a good look. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful to see a live birth? So having a good look, but I think, if I'm not mistaken now, you see, and I've never seen it, so I don't know if they give birth standing up or if they give birth lying down. You see, they would have to stand up to allow the calf to fall out, and that usually snaps the umbilical cord. So I'm not sure. Let's have a look. So with the wildebeest, apparently a lot of them do lay down giving birth, but then some stand, so it's a much of a muchness, really, I suppose. But I think, it's obviously a bit easier for them to give birth lying down. But I think once they try and get the calf out, then they do stand up, the females, I think, very quickly, so that they can clean the calf and try get it moving as quickly as possible. There are 4 little calves there at the moment that we can see. Lovely size herd of wildebeest too. Quite a number of them. No. So from our lack of cat day yesterday, it sounds like Jamie is trying to redeem all of us, and she's doing very, very well. So from a lion, she has another cat in a tree.